You do it every few minutes without once being aware of it. Swallow, throat working on its own, water moving through you as it has 10,000 times already today. 60% of your body is leaning on this same colorless, tasteless liquid, the same molecule filling every ocean, every cloud, every vein on Earth, cycling through the planet in one unbroken loop that has never once run dry, not in 4 billion years. Now imagine the whole loop simply empties. Your mind immediately jumps to a quiet, agonizing countdown, an individual sitting in a darkened kitchen, staring at a dry ceramic tap, measuring the 72 hours a human body can endure without liquid. We naturally imagine thirst as the sole, ultimate executioner, creeping in person by person, house by house across a parched landscape. But that is a comforting illusion born of biological ego. Long before your throat parches or your cells begin to shrink, the massive industrial nervous system of human civilization dies in a sudden, violent cascade. Water is not merely something we swallow to stay alive. It is the fundamental working fluid of technological existence. Thermoelectric power plants, whether nuclear, coal, or natural gas, rely on hundreds of billions of gallons of circulating liquid every single day to cool, steam condensers, and keep high-capacity turbines spinning. Without that continuous thermal sink, high-voltage power grids trip and lock down within minutes, plunging entire continental networks into total darkness. Automated agricultural irrigation vanishes instantly. Massive steel freight barges collapse into the dried silt of empty riverbeds, chemical plants overheat, and municipal sewer networks transform into stagnant, toxic traps. Long before human bodies feel the physical agony of individual dehydration, the complex machine of civilization shatters from immediate, catastrophic system shock. To understand how humanity navigates a planet stripped of its primary fluid, we must look beyond global maps and follow the quiet human trail left behind. From silent river ports in North America to subterranean engineering vaults beneath ancient deserts, where survivors attempt to capture the last lingering traces of moisture. A hollow, dry metallic rattle echoes through a 5-story brick apartment block in Montreal, Canada, as a municipal water pump dry fires for the final time. On her third-floor balcony, a logistics manager stands looking out over the St. Lawrence River, watching the immense shipping channel transform into a dusty, gray ravine filled with stranded container ships resting awkwardly on exposed, riverbed silt. The city around her is strangely, unnervingly quiet. No traffic hums across the overhead bridges, because without cooling water, the regional oil refineries lock down within hours, halting the flow of fuel to the entire grid. Inside her living room, neighbors sit quietly around a battery-powered emergency radio that broadcasts only low, continuous static, seeking comfort in shared human presence rather than empty words. No one talks about food or long-term plans. The sudden loss of the river has stripped away the familiar rhythm of urban life, leaving a hollow void where community once existed. On the wooden kitchen counter sits a hand-painted ceramic pitcher, completely empty, catching the soft yellow light of a single flickering candle as darkness settles over the quiet city. 3 weeks later, the sharp, dry crunch of baked clay beneath a leather sandal breaks the twilight stillness of an ancient mosque courtyard in Cairo, Egypt. An elderly calligrapher sits beside an empty marble ablution basin, holding a dry wooden reed pen above an inkstone that has hardened into solid stone. For thousands of years, the Nile was not just geography. It was time itself, an unbroken pulse measuring dynasties, annual floods, and harvests that anchored human faith. Now the ancient riverbed is a vast, sun-scorched canyon of cracked mud, exposing long-forgotten wooden riverboats that haven't seen the open air in centuries. Around him, worshippers no longer walk down to the riverbank for evening prayers. They gather beneath the heavy stone arches to press their foreheads against the cool granite pillars, searching for something permanent in a world where the earth's liquid life has vanished. He carefully lays his dry pen on the stone lip of the empty fountain, watching fine yellow dust drift across the marble floor. If you are watching this right now and feeling a quiet weight settle in your chest, that is a completely natural reaction to contemplating a world robbed of its primary engine. We are witnessing the sudden breakdown of civilization, one that strips away the superficial layers of human culture to reveal how utterly reliant we are on an invisible fluid loop. Stay with me, because as we push deeper into this endless dryness, the narrative shifts from how our surface systems crumble to how small groups of survivors re-engineer the very mechanics of endurance. By the third month, the high-pitched whine of a modified compressor unit hums through the humid darkness of an abandoned subterranean tube tunnel 40 meters beneath London, United Kingdom. A former environmental systems engineer adjusts the brass valves of a jury-rigged atmospheric moisture harvester assembled from salvaged air conditioners and industrial desiccant wheels. Up on the surface, the Thames is a winding trench of sun-baked gravel and cracked clay, but down here in the deep subterranean tunnels, human respiration and soil gas still retain trace amounts of airborne vapor. She monitors a digital pressure gauge that flickers in the dim gloom, tracking the tiny pressure differentials across her homemade condensation filters. She watches through a thick glass viewport as microscopic droplets condense on a cold copper coil, slowly coalescing and dripping into a sealed stainless steel flask at a rate of less than half a cup per hour. A small LED light illuminates the glass container, where each falling drop creates a faint, mesmerizing ripple on the surface of the collected liquid. Halfway through the first year, a blast of hot, iron-scented air sweeps through the heavy pressure lock of a subterranean aquifer dome deep beneath Kalgoorlie, Australia. A shift supervisor in a sealed environmental suit inspects a heavy steel manifold connected to a deep borehole drilled 3 kilometers into the ancient continental bedrock. Below them lies a trapped fossil aquifer, water locked beneath thick granite plates for over 200 million years. Down here, 200 survivors inhabit sealed habitat modules carved directly into the basalt, surviving on recycled humidity and farming dense beds of protein-rich algae under ultraviolet lights. They move quietly through narrow, sweat-slicked corridors, mindful that every exhaled breath is a vital resource that must be recaptured by the roof collectors. Outside the airlock, the red outback has turned into an endless, wind-sculpted expanse of dust where nothing moves. But inside the dome, the air is thick and damp with heavy reclaimed humidity. The supervisor places his calloused palm against the cold steel pipe, feeling the deep, rhythmic vibration of the hydraulic pump pulling up the planet's final, subterranean reserve. To understand how these enclosed subterranean refuges sustain human life in a world without open rivers, we must look at the advanced thermodynamics of closed-loop, fluid reclamation. A subterranean survival module operates on the exact same principles as the environmental control and life support system aboard the International Space Station, or the natural physiology of the human body itself. Every time you swallow, your body directs fluid through a complex internal system, filtering, reabsorbing, and recycling liquid through cellular membranes with astonishing biological efficiency. Spacecraft and deep Earth habitats take this exact biological mechanism and scale it into mechanical infrastructure. Using multi-stage vapor compression distillation, catalytic oxidation, and high-pressure reverse osmosis filtration, these closed systems capture every microgram of moisture evaporating from skin, exhaled breath, and organic waste, forcing it through a continuous loop where loss to the dry exterior environment is held near zero. High-efficiency heat exchangers cool the ambient air to harvest sweat, while vacuum distillation units boil wastewater at low temperatures to leave contaminants behind. It is an artificial recreation of Earth's original hydrological cycle, compressed into a steel box, proving that while the planet once distributed water across vast oceans and rain clouds, human survival relies on folding that same fluid loop into a tiny, unbroken circuit. When we step back and remove water from the planetary equation, we are forced to confront a profound truth about our place in the cosmos. Liquid water was never a permanent guarantee. Across the vast, silent expanse of the universe, water in its liquid form is an extraordinary cosmic anomaly, a delicate, transient phase that exists only within a remarkably narrow envelope of surface temperature and atmospheric pressure. Most water in the cosmos exists either as frozen ice locked in planetary crusts and comet tails, or as invisible steam drifting through interstellar clouds. Our planet's entire history, from the grinding of continental plates to the rise of global human civilization, was built upon this temporary thermodynamic privilege. Earth was never defined merely by its solid rock or its atmosphere, but by its liquid interface. The continuous fluid motion that cushioned global temperatures, transported vital nutrients, and sustained every biological process for 4 billion years. Hydrologists and systems engineers studying planetary cycles have long understood that our entire existence hangs on this fluid state. This hypothetical scenario reveals that humanity's true sanctuary was never the concrete cities or towering monuments we constructed on land, but our quiet, continuous reliance on a planetary fluid system that kept the entire machine alive. The next time you swallow, pause for a moment and feel that quiet, effortless movement in your throat. It is not just an automatic biological reflex. It is a small living miracle, a tiny fragment of a 4 billion-year-old planetary loop still moving through you. And as long as that fluid loop remains unbroken, the story is still being written.